I think at this point it's no surprise that women in a lot of media have been sexualized to certain degrees. Some not so much, while others are overly sexualized purely for the male gaze. This isn't just towards real-life women and young girls, but also female characters in the anime and manga industry. It's no surprise that female characters will be designed a certain way and have very sexual panels focusing on very specific parts of their body, just for the sake of fan service. And while I do enjoy hot and sexy looking female characters who are absolute queens and who slay their looks without only appealing to men, but there are plenty of female characters that are specifically designed for the sake of someone getting off on them and having Rule 34 art drawn of her. And before anyone says that I'm only referring to male authors drawing their female characters like this because that's the stereotype, I'm not. I know there are women authors who also do the same thing with their female characters. But I'm not here to talk about every 2D drawn female character that I have an issue with. I'm mainly gonna talk about Daki from Demon Slayer, since I've seen a lot of people who have criticized this character for the outfit she's wearing and for the fact that she was turned into a demon at the age of 13 and was given a sexualized adult woman body. I'll talk about more about her still being mentally 13 in a bit. I have to talk about her outfit first and why I would not design my OC Veronica this way, despite Daki and Veronica both coming from the red light district. I will be both analyzing and ranting for this video, so expect me to do a bit of both. Now, to understand why Daki dresses the way she does in Demon Slayer Season 2, you have to actually look at both her backstory and the real history it's loosely pulling from. The series takes place during Japan's Taisho period, which is around 1912 to 1926. And since Daki and Gyutaro have been demons for about 100 years in the series, that places their human lives somewhere around the late 1700s to the early 1800s. Now, look at what the red light district was actually like during that time. Women and young girls didn't just end up there for fun. They were often sold into brothels or sent there by their families who were crushed by poverty, and they would send their daughters there to earn money so they could pay their family's debts. For a lot of them, it wasn't a choice at all. It was for the sake of survival and helping their families pay off their debts. And it started at a very young age, and at the time, society largely did not question it. Gyutaro even spells this out in their backstory. He talks about how they were born in the absolute lowest part of the district, where kids were not valued as people, they were just seen as extra mouths to feed. Daki, at 13, was already working as a sex worker in a brothel. That alone should set the tone for how her character is treated. And then there's how she died. She was burned alive behind a brothel after stabbing a samurai in the eye with a hairpin, something she did in self-defense. That detail matters because it strongly implies that she was about to be assaulted. And instead of being protected, she was punished in one of the most brutal ways possible. That moment says everything about how little girls like her were valued, especially those at the lower ranks. They weren't seen as humans at all, they were instead treated as disposable objects to be used, abused, and then later thrown away. That's not an exaggerated drama. That was the actual reality for many courtesans before 1956. And 1956 is important because that's when Japan finally passed down the prostitution prevention law, officially banning prostitution and penalizing those who paid for it. Demon Slayer takes place about 30 years before that, so yes, on paper, Daki being in the red light district posing as an oiran and using that role to lure and prey on people does make sense within the setting. But that's exactly why the design choices feel so frustrating to me. Because even with all that historical context, poverty, exploitation, violence, and lack of agency, the series still chooses to present her in a way that leans more into stylized sexualization than anything grounded in that reality. and that's where it falls short for me. Daki could have been a much stronger, more accurate representation of a Taisho-era courtesan if her design reflected even a fraction of that context. Instead, the disconnect between her history and how she's visually portrayed makes the whole thing feel less thoughtful than it should have been. Daki's design is honestly ridiculous in my opinion. She's basically walking around in panties with a thin strip of fabric barely covering her chest. Not to mention how extremely inappropriate it is for her to be barely clothed and be around her brother who is twice her age. I get that Demon Slayer takes place in a fantasy version of Taisho-era Japan, but fantasy doesn't mean you throw all historical grounding out the window just to slap a bikini on a character and call it a day. There are so many better ways to design her that still fit the setting while keeping her visually striking. Her obi weapon, that works. I honestly like it. It's actually feels rooted in the time period and the aesthetic. But her actual outfit feels like it came straight out of some 1980s comic book where every woman is built like a pinup and dressed like she's going to a beach episode while holding large weapons. It doesn't match the world she's in at all. If I were redesigning her, I would have gone with a modified kimono or a shorter, more revealing yukata. Something that still reflects the clothing of the time but can be stylized to look. You can make a character desirable and seductive without turning her into whatever this is supposed to be. And yeah, the author can do whatever she wants. It's her story, it's her character, but that doesn't make the choices immune to criticism. I'm pointing this out that this specific choice feels lazy and disconnected from the reality it's loosely based on. Because here's the thing people keep glossing over. Not all women in that era chose that life. A lot of them didn't have a choice at all. Girls were sold into brothels because their families were desperate and poor and they need to pay off family debts. That's not some edgy background detail at all. That's actually in Japan's history and in other parts of history in the world. And Daki's design does not reflect that reality even slightly. The way she's presented makes it looks like she enjoys being in a brothel, like she thrives with being desired and paid by rich men. And that's exactly where the problem is. That image feeds into this fantasy version of sex workers that ignores how brutal it actually was for a lot of women and young girls. These women and girls had to perform desire. They had to sit still, look pretty, and smile and pretend they wanted every second of it, even if they absolutely did not want any of it. Behind the scenes, it was grim as hell. No protection, constant exposure to disease, and pregnancy was basically a nightmare to a courtesan. If they got pregnant, they could be thrown out, forced into worse conditions, or pushed down the hierarchy in a brothel. Their value was tied to how usable they were, which was just as awful as it sounds. That's why something like the Apothecary Diaries does a phenomenal job at representing. It actually shows both sides. You see the beauty, the allure, the performance, but you also see the reality underneath it. Mao Mao, the main character, literally makes herself look less attractive on purpose by adding freckles, so that she won't get dragged into an alleyway and sexually assaulted. That says everything. Her own mother was a courtesan who ended up with syphilis after being with a client. That's the reality of that world, and the show doesn't shy away from it. Demon Slayer could have done that. It had the setting, the opportunity, everything. Instead, it leaned way too hard into making the entertainment district flashy and quote-unquote fun, while barely touching on how messed up it actually was. And yeah, I've seen people say the arc downplays the seriousness of the red light district, and honestly, I agree with the criticism. Daki's design and portrayal just amplifies the problem. It's not just that she's sexualized, but it's how she's sexualized. It feels excessive, disconnected, and honestly uncomfortable when you remember that, canonically, she was only 13 when she became a demon. You can argue that her appearance reflects her role as an Oiron, sure, but that doesn't automatically make the execution any less questionable. At the end of the day, it feels like a wasted potential. The Entertainment District arc could have been so much more grounded, more impactful, and more respectful to the real history it borrows from. Instead, we got something that leans too far into fantasy and not enough into reality. And Daki is the clearest example of that. The issue I have with Daki isn't just her design, it's the absolutely baffling decision to turn her into a demon at 13, then stick her in a hyper-sexualized adult body while she still acts like a child. That contradiction is exactly why her character feels so off and uncomfortable. During her fight with Tanjiro, Tengen, and the others, she barely does anything of value. She whines, screams, and constantly begs her brother to get back up on his feet even when he's literally incapable from poison. There's no real strategy, no competence to back up the threat she's supposed to represent as Upper Moon 6. And the moment she's actually in danger, like when she gets decapitated, she completely falls apart into a full-on tantrum. Not fear in a controlled or calculated way, it's straight up childish breakdowns. And that's the problem. She behaves like a child because she is a child mentally. But the story insists on representing her as this hyper-sexualized adult figure at the same time. Those two things clash. They completely undermine each other. You cannot write a traumatized, emotionally immature 13-year-old and then frame her like she's a sex symbol without it feeling deeply uncomfortable and tonally inconsistent. The visuals make it even worse. Certain panels, and especially the anime adaptation, go out of their way to emphasize her body and sexual appeal in ways that feel totally disconnected from who she is mentally. So what you end up with is a character who's treated visually like eye candy, while narratively she's basically a distressed, unstable child stuck in a role she doesn't fully understand. The disconnect is the core issue, and it never gets resolved. And then there's the bigger picture, which just makes everything more frustrating. The way Demon Slayer handles the Red Light District in general already leans way too far into romanticized territory. And this isn't even just me nitpicking, there's been real criticism about this kind of portrayal before. Even the Edo Tokyo Museum caught backlash for describing the district as some glamorous, glittering world, which is honestly insane when you consider the actual history of exploitation and abuse tied to it. They had to put out a public apology because even Japanese parents were outraged by the description of a red light district. That's where this basically starts to fall apart for me. Daki could have been an incredible antagonist, someone genuinely disturbing shaped by systematic abuse and turned into something monstrous. There's real narrative weight in that idea, but instead of all of that portrayal gets dragged down by an outrageous design choices and tonal contradictions that refuse to take the setting seriously. If you're gonna have the characters fight in a place where women get exploited, like in reality, which did happen, why romanticize it so much to the point where the only thing people care about while watching it is flashy fight scenes? Wow, that's the only reason why that part of season 2 became popular. It's because of Gyotaro's and Tengen's fight, not the fact that, oh, this setting is actually kind of fucked up. I know the author is a Japanese woman, but she did a piss poor job at doing her own fellow women and young girls justice who were victims in that district. To illustrate how these issues could have been addressed, I created a character built on a similar foundation, but shaped by different narrative choices. My cyberpunk character, Verosica, she draws heavy inspiration from Daki and other female characters like Amo, but is designed to resolve some of the inconsistencies in Daki's portrayal. Like Daki, Verosica was raised in the red light district and experienced exploitation at a young age. In a moment of violent retaliation, she killed the man responsible for her suffering. She was later taken in by Lady Estella, who spent years helping her recover from severe psychological trauma before she began any form of combat training. Unlike Daki, Verosica is not trapped in a child's mindset within an adult body. She ages naturally, reaching adulthood before fully stepping into her role. However, her trauma does not simply disappear, it's still there. She struggles with trust, mainly with men, and this directly impacts her performance. She hesitates at critical moments. She misjudges targets and in some cases kills an innocent man. Over time, these failures shapes her. While she is initially relying heavily on her brother Vincent, she gradually becomes more independent and learning to operate on her own while still recognizing her limits. Verosica is a wolf in sheep's clothing. She looks like a beautiful woman who is completely harmless, yet would kill you if you're a target. That's how I chose to take Daki into my own character, but change the aspects that make Daki problematic and incorporate them into Verosica. That's how you can write a visually seductive, sexy woman who is a victim of exploitation in the red light district, while still keeping her as an adult. She still struggles. She's not sexualized, like to the point where Daki is sexualized, but she feels more grounded, more nuanced. She learns to become independent, to fight on her own. She stops relying on her brother so much, unlike Daki, who cries at every moment she's in danger, like without even thinking about escaping, creating distance, or try to at least run away to think of something else to do so she doesn't get her head cut off. That's how Daki could have been handled, but unfortunately, we do not get that. And before anyone says to me in the comments, oh, but Daki was just put in an adult body because child demons weren't that useful, maybe. Do I need to mention Rui? The dude is still Tanjiro's height. He's been a demon for, I don't know, it's not really specified how long he's been a demon for, but the guy, he was turned into a demon when he was a child. He is still a child. He was not aged up like Daki was. So what was the point of, giving Daki an adult body, but still keeping her mentally 13? When Rui was turned into a demon as a child as well, but he wasn't given an adult body. Oh, but Daki is a sex worker, she's a courtesan, Okay, if you want to, have Daki be a sex worker, but she was turned into a demon at a young age, you can change that, honestly. Have her as a human for a little bit longer. 18, 19, doesn't fucking matter. She's an adult by then. Then turn her into a demon. I know that in her backstory she was burned alive at 13, but if her backstory was different, you could have at least had her, still be a human until she reaches the early parts of her adulthood, and then have her, be burned and then turn into a demon, because at that point, she is no longer a child, so the child criticism won't be able to fit, it won't be able to stick on her character. And at that point, with an adult character, you can sexualize her as much as you want. But the thing with Daki is that her outfit doesn't fit the time period she's in, and the fact that she's still mentally 13 is the whole reason why I feel like she's still a sexualized child, because just the fact that she was put in an adult body does not push away the fact that she was a 13-year-old little girl turned into a demon and then given an adult body. But she was aged up. Yeah, aged up and still mentally a child. It does not work in the slightest. If I were to change Daki, this is how I would do it. Firstly, I would completely change her outfit so it fits the era she is in. I would give her a kimono-styled robe that features side slits on her legs so her movements would look more flowy. Her chest would be open just a bit to show off some of her assets, and her sleeves would be long so she could hide her sharp nails that most demons have, actually. I would keep her color palette the same. I will remove the flowers off her face, as she already has plenty of flower patterns on her outfit. I will keep her hair black and her skin clean and pale, since that is the Japanese beauty standard. Her obi belt weapon will keep its design and how it comes from her lower back. I will not change how her weapon is being used. I removed her stockings because her garment is already very long. So giving her bare legs is better because keeping the bare pale legs contrast the dark garments. And I feel like this design would be better than what Daki had originally for the series, because this way she looks more like a Taisho era courtesan than what she originally looks like. And I wish a lot of people did this with female character designs, especially with a female character they want to be sexy, desirable, seductive, but without literally making them half naked, because when you do that, it removes the purpose of the female character, if I'm being honest. The outfit should represent who she's meant to be and why she's dressed a certain way. That's why it's important to design a character so it fits like what she's doing, why, what's her role specifically. And this also ties in why I designed Veronica like this. Her outfit is revealing, yes. Her chest is open, specifically the front part of it is. But I gave her like this bodysuit because her combat style is very flexible. Think of like Mitsuri and how she wields her blade and how she moves. That's how I also imagine Veronica to be fighting, is that her movements are very flexible, but she wants to be like sexy about it, so I gave her an outfit that covers her up enough, but also still making her visually appealing. I think that's a better alternative than just giving her whatever this is, apparently. Well, that's it for this one. Honestly, looking back at my teen years, my early teen years, I was glazing Demon Slayer way too much. This show doesn't make sense sometimes, that I can see why people have a problem with it at certain points. And people will still say it's the best anime out there, it's the best modern anime, and you can't tell them otherwise. I mean, yeah, on the charts it's gained a lot of popularity, but that doesn't mean that like some of the logic in the show makes sense and that it's good. I just want to say real quick that my love for Demon Slayer has been dying, and once the final movies are out, I'll just move on to what else is new, like Gachiakuta and Windbreaker. I'm currently hyper-fixated on those two at the moment. In Gachiakuta, Amo is my sweet baby. I love her. I want to protect her with my life. Fuck this guy. I love Jabber. I love how unhinged he is. I love unhinged characters, by the way. He is tweaking. He is geeking. I would vibe with him, if I'm being honest. Like, let's get fucked up. Let's get high. Let's just have fun. You know what I mean? I also watched Tokyo Revengers. All of it. I'ma say this. Mikey is better than the main character. That weak punk-ass little bitch called Takemichi gets his ass beat over and over again. He cries and whines. I hate him! I know the author intended for him to be like this character who can barely fight, but his role is to save everybody with this time travel ability. But keeping him as someone weak does not work in the long run. At some point, people expect him to start training, getting stronger, actually being able to fight. Motherfucker had his girlfriend die, like, several times whenever he traveled back 12 years. Like, come on, dude. And this dude is the most insufferable main character I have ever seen. He's more insufferable than Midoriya. They are both crybabies, but Piss Hair over here cries more than Green Hair, who actually becomes based over time. I don't know how Mikey keeps him around, especially after he got Emma killed by covering his own ass and leaving her, like, he just left her there like bait. More OC stuff next time. Won't be busy until, like, June. No, I will. Sorry, I can't speak at the moment. I will be a bit busy until like mid-June because it's exam period for me and I have to be stuck with school stuff and I just can't wait to graduate. Okay, bye.